Hello and good morning. A live this morning with myself and Michaela. We are talking about your mood, mental health in relation to mood, and we're going to be talking about how this relates to your overall health and some of the things that you may not consider when it comes to your day-to-day mood. So let me just bring Michaela in with us, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more success than we did a second ago on the JCM. Good to go. So with mood, one of the reasons that we wanted to talk about this your screen. Gotcha. Whoop, let me move this back. Ooh, son, maybe I'll move back. Oh, it's such a rigmarole, isn't it? There we go. I'm going to move back.
Awesome. Good.
How are you?
If you can hear the washing machine, just ignore that. But
you good?
I closed the door and that's all I can do.
Can't hear it at all. Can't hear it. I can it's always like that, isn't it? I didn't even think about it. The cat's probably going to come in here at some point. We'll see.
A welcome visitor.
What was that? Yeah, exactly, right? So we're talking about mood today. Mood, mental health, like it's sort of a bit of a sliding scale. I was just saying essentially that when it comes to mood, I feel like it's something that people don't think about as being related to their health. Like, of course, there's other factors that will come into that as far as what's going on environmentally. But I know at JCN we see a lot of mood disruptions which are tied back into what's going on with people's health underneath. And that's what we wanted to talk about and highlight today, which is kind of cool.
So where did you want to start? And did you...
Well, good question. I just realised because
do you want to include anxiety in this, or just go over lower mood?
Yeah, I think what we could talk about first is what we mean by mood issues, because I think that's quite a broad term. So it's when we talk about mood, yeah, exactly that. We've got things from one end of the spectrum right through to, as you just said, there's things like mental health conditions with anxiety and so forth. But yeah, do you want to talk a little bit firstly about just the sort of basics of mood issues or things going on with mood that we might see commonly with clients?
Yeah. So it kind of varies. I mean, there's obviously lower mood in terms of depression kind of symptoms, and then there's anxiety as well, which is up and down in terms of mood, and is affected by a lot of things, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint. And sometimes there is crossover in symptoms, and then there's also if you had hormonal imbalances and that was driving PMS, mood changes as well. So it really kind of depends, but it'd be more irritability, maybe you're not enjoying your normal activities as much, that kind of change in mood. Maybe just somebody's noticed and they've said that you feel a little bit sad or not quite your usual self, something like that, but it can come from lots of different aspects. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, you're right. It's that scale of sort of mood disturbances that might kind of come and go with what's going on. But then it can be sort of more I guess, serious through to that sort of more diagnosed space of anxiety, depression. But I think the thing that I feel like we see a lot of is definitely both ends of the spectrum, but I do feel like there's a lot that goes on with people feeling kind of crappier as far as really low or just down, or maybe a bit anxious when there's these other drivers that are going on. So it may not be that they're actually good, that they have full-blown anxiety or those factors, but it's just like there's something going on, and then as we work with people, we tend to kind of see the shift there. So I guess the next thing would be how these mood changes, or some of even the sort of mental health sort of conditions that people experience, can relate to underlying health issues or systemic drivers. And I say that with a caveat, of course, there's going to be other factors which we'll talk to clients about, as far as like what's going on in their life, what has happened as far as experiences and genetic predispositions, all of that. But what we wanted to talk about was the things that we see as far as systemic drivers. So, and you just kind of alluded to one of them there as far as hormones. So I guess, did you want to start with that one and talk a little bit about maybe some hormonal factors that might have people feeling a little bit chaotic? Chaotic.
Yeah, well, in terms of like hormonal issues, probably more noticeable in terms of the regularity or the timing of it. Usually you would get kind of mood disturbances if your hormones were a bit unbalanced in the luteal phase, so that second half, probably in the week before your period, usually. Like that's more, it's a little bit different for everyone, but they generally notice like that extreme irritability. Maybe they're becoming more sensory overloaded more easily, if that makes sense. Like you're just feeling irritated by everything. Things that you wouldn't normally be annoyed about start to annoy you. Maybe you're getting that lower mood where you're just not feeling like it for the whole week, that sort of thing. So yeah, that one's kind of easy. It's more about that balance of estrogen and progesterone. It can go either way, but generally it's the balance between the two that causes that mood disruption there.
Yeah. I love that concept of sensory overload. Just as you're saying that, I'm like, yes, I know that feeling. It's like, why is it irritating the shit out of me this week and it didn't last week?
Yeah.
And even with androgens as well. I know you and I have like been looking over some Dutch tests together in the last week or two, and you know, androgens are something, particularly with females, watching males obviously, but with females they don't sort of think about as much, but where there might be some particularly with like that lower sort of fatigue or lower mood, where androgens might be quite low for women, that definitely can have an effect on mood, versus which I think is not as common, like where you'll see that kind of super high space. But well, I think even with what you and I have been looking at lately, we've seen that. So it's just another part of that sex hormone space that isn't thought about as much. It's kind of more the like classic progesterone.
Yeah, I suppose it's more common in that regard. So that's kind of why I mentioned that one first. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And even like, what about like as far as hormones go, with what might be going on with people's cortisol, right? Like, what about how that, I mean, and even again, like that's so affected by external environment, but also cortisol is very affected by like any form of stressor, and that can be like an inflammatory stressor. But yeah, like, do you want to sort of chat a little bit about that one, as far as like if cortisol has been and I guess it's one of those things, as I'm saying, it's like, well, it seems like the obvious to you and I, but not everyone watching would understand, well, why would I feel like crap if my cortisol was really low?
I literally have that written as the title of one of my next blog posts. Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Feel like crap. Yeah, so it kind of depends. It could go one of two ways. You could have like really overactive cortisol release, which is a bit different. You're probably going to feel a bit more irritable. And then there's also lower cortisol. So that might be seen in like if you're been stressed for a really long period of time and then you kind of start to burn out and it's getting really flat. You're probably just not going to have very high motivation. Maybe the waking up in the morning feels a lot harder, that sort of thing, which also equates to a lower mood. like low enthusiasm. Shush, washing machine. You're beeping at me. Yeah, lower mood, that sort of thing. Lower libido as well, if that's something you've noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And even again, like when we look at that in a
Mm.
functional testing space, sometimes you'll see that general low level, but you'll see the drops at certain points. So you might see that classic drop in the afternoon where people do feel that real lull, which often we'll see can be driven by how people eat through the day too. But it can be a point where people are like, I just feel so tired and like I lack I lack energy, but I also just feel just like more irritable in the afternoon or more triggered in the afternoon, and that can be back to that sort of real drop as far as like that hormonal
but then
picture.
there's like so many other drivers to that as well, like insulin and blood glucose and all of that. But yeah, it's that 3 p.m. that most people
exactly right.
Look for the
exactly, which is another
a different topic.
Another factor you just highlighted there as far as yes, but that's important because it's not always about like, yes, there's the external factors, but I think this is for so many, there are a lot of people like, why? Like, I don't feel like my environment is that triggering or that stressful, so why am I feeling like this?
So many drivers to that.
So the other one that, like, of course, have to talk about is the gut, which plays back into all of these. But if there's a lot of gut inflammation, a lot going on in your gut from a plethora of different things, whether it's things like dysbiosis, SIBO, gut permeability issues, all like the list goes on, food intolerances. Essentially, let's think about it as an inflammatory load. I'll always say to my clients, imagine that you have an ongoing cold that's just like burdening your system. Like, everyone knows what it feels like to just have a cold or flu and feel that run down space, just really lethargic, no energy, just, you don't feel great mentally because of that. And when you have that's your body obviously fighting a virus, but essentially the immune system is very kind of busy dealing with that. So I'll say to my clients, well, if your gut is constantly inflamed, there's a lot of energy involved in that. There's a lot of like immune activity going on there. So that's quite draining in itself. And we'll see that literally with clients when we work on their gut and they start feeling better symptom wise, that their energy and their mood will improve because they don't have that constant burden. So I always think of that as like a number one, like it's kind of an all-rounder, but then there's a more intricate stuff as far as like there's studies obviously with certain bacteria and how they are involved in producing neurotransmitters that help with our production of like our GABA and our serotonin and so forth. So there's that concept as well. But I feel like even before thinking about that, which we love to nerd out on, it's probably for most people that broader spectrum of like inflammatory load, big burden. It's just really making me feel like crap, and therefore it's affecting my mental health and my day-to-day feel good vibes.
Yeah, because that inflammation doesn't just stay in the gut, like it does spread around your body. And I've seen a few studies and a couple of books even calling anxiety and depression like inflammation of the brain. So it really kind of makes that connection between the gut and brain and like how they affect each other as well.
Absolutely, that's it. We've got that neural highway with that vagus nerve to the brain, and as you just said, we've got that like and I think we did a live maybe a week or so ago, we were talking about the sort of top ribs, that absorption of like increased toxin load from the gut, and as you just said, that's going to move systemically through the body and put more pressure on literally on the brain as well. So yeah, inflammation of the brain. Absolutely. It
A
sounds a bit
little.
scary, doesn't it? But
Don't freak out. Oh,
I guess, is there any others? I mean, I feel like there's so many other factors, but is there anything else that you can think of that you wanted to mention when it comes to like underlying factors in this space?
Well, we went over hormones in terms of like male and female cycles very briefly. The other thing would probably just be like nutrition basis as well in terms of building blocks for neurotransmitters and other aspects that help modulate the immune system, not the immune system, sorry, modulate the mood. Yeah, which is kind of,
Yeah.
if you think about that in an inflamed gut environment as well, like that's impacting your nutritional absorption. So there's like different highways to everything, but really that nutritional foundation that helps build all of our building blocks for neurotransmitters that will affect mood if they're not there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolute critical foundation.
I'm
For
sure you can
sure.
mention more as well, but like the easy one to go to is like your proteins and everything. So those amino acids that help build your neurotransmitters literally, and then all the cofactors involved in that. So like your iron, your zinc, B vitamins. There was another one, but it's moved out of my brain somewhere. Can you remember anymore?
Yeah, you mean as far as cofactors? Definitely your B6, your magnesium, you said. Did you say iron? Yeah. Did I just say one of them that you didn't say?
You said magnesium.
B6?
And B6, yeah, specifics. I think there's more.
Yeah. They're the ones that I generally think of that trio majority of the time. But then it depends on like which neurotransmitter pathway we're talking about. But I think if they're probably your kind of three major players as far as they tend to go. But I think what you're saying is really critical, and it kind of course, that's why we bang on so much about foundations, because it relates back to all of the other things that we're just talking about. Because as you were alluding to earlier with like the cortisol picture, if you don't have that good foundation of like your protein intake with your quality fats and your variety of your fruits and your veg and all of those things, then that's going to start wreaking havoc with your blood sugar levels throughout the day, which in turn is going to have issues with your insulin. And then you've got that relationship you said between your insulin and your cortisol. So you can kind of, that's why we're always like foundations, because if that's not right, then how can you expect to like go in and have profound change? And I mean, one of the last thing we're going to talk about is supporting this system, but even for yourself, like you could create this like awesome whiz bang supportive herbal mix for say someone's like poor cortisol production. But if they're still eating like crap and they're not getting that foundation right, then you're kind of just trying to like band-aid the situation. And yeah, that can help to a point, but it's like it's not dealing with the underlying core issue, which might be they're not eating enough protein, or they're not getting a diversity of nutrients, which is giving them all of those beautiful like vitamins and minerals that are used as cofactors. So yeah, it's so important. So important. That's why we're always going on about it. So yeah, support, assistance in this area, which is the main thing people always want to know. There's a few little questions as well, but diet, number one, critical. So if you come along to us at JCN, the first thing we're always going to do is make sure your diet is really adequate and plus ideally for you. So making sure that you're getting good amount of macros through the day with your carbs, your proteins and your fats, particularly for women. So many women are under eating protein, and Michaela mentioned how vital that is here. So we're going to make sure you're getting all of those in. Are you eating the right foods for you? Is there anything you're eating that's actually causing you inflammatory stress? So we want to figure that out too. Are you eating a broad array of different fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, pulses, all of the things. We want that beautiful whole food base. So that's critical for us when it comes to food. But I think from like a medicinal point of view, I definitely would be looking at here, yeah, what are two things? What are you consuming that might be causing inflammation? And we need to look at how we need to take that out of the diet. If it's a just now thing, or it's something that might be long term, like a true food intolerance, potential allergy situation, versus what can we bring in that might be supportive. And even that supportive thing with food is going to change. Like it could be certain anti-inflammatory foods we want for a certain person versus something different for the next. I don't feel like there's anything. I feel, you know, you probably have more to say about that as far as like teas and herbs to help, as far as like things people can eat just to support mood. And I think that was one of the questions that I got, like any ideas for like natural pick-me-ups when you're feeling flat. I kind of think about things, the two that I think about is matcha because matcha's rich in theanine and it does have that little bit of natural caffeine, but it really helps boost your theanine and it sort of chills you out and gives you that little boost and carries you nicely. So that's one of my sort of loves foodie wise. And I feel like cacao has that beautiful ability too. Like it has those nice constituents that will give you that lift. It's quite magnesium rich. There's a place we go to, sidetrack but related, on a Friday afternoon, and they do hot chocolates, and the guy that makes them, he gets the cacao bean and he grinds the bean down, and then he blends that in this big pot with water, mesquite, vanilla, and a bit of cinnamon. I think that's pretty much it, but it's really, really rich in the cacao, and he makes it cold, like it's on ice in the cooler months, sorry, in the hot months, and now it's gone over to a hot chocolate, and he puts like cacao nibs and puffed amaranth on top of it when he serves it. It's crazy. It's like this type, the glass is like, I don't know, it's like where my water glass is up to, and it's like $5. It's ridiculously expensive for really what it is. But everyone comes to drink it, and when you drink it, I swear we've joked multiple times about afterwards, you just feel really chilled. You're just like, woo. It just, I think it's that high cacao amount, and it just really just gives you that nice kind of little endorphin dopamine hit. So they're probably two of mine that stand out.
That you're getting from
someone
the
said
cacao
about
and the matcha, like just.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Actually, someone just asked about the matcha, the brand. I think what's the night? I'm all about Matcha Maiden. Like I just love their matcha. I've tried lots of different ones, and I will never sway from Matcha Maiden. It's my go-to.
Definitely.
It is, isn't it? That's why I love it.
And then, like, to sweeten it up, sometimes, because sometimes you're just not feeling like a really matcha-y flavored drink. You just want it a little bit sweeter. Maybe I'll put some honey or something, or even like some coconut sugar. But yeah. And then I put the what do you call it? Cocoa butter in there as well for the fats. And I think like that makes it so much smoother.
Yes. Yeah. Pimped up matcha. Yeah. Love it. So what about herbs? Is there anything, I mean, there might be something food-wise you obviously wanted to mention. I sort of just a few there, but anything for you, food or particularly herb-wise, that you love to recommend, even as sort of general stuff? It might be like certain herbal teas or certain herbs people could be using more of.
Food-wise, I feel like it's just all those high antioxidant foods. So like all your fresh, rich coloured fruit and veggies and that sort of stuff. Like I personally feel like that boosts my mood after I've eaten it. Like I feel really good, which obviously if your stomach is not working well, then that's going to dampen your mood as well. But herb-wise, there's too many. Ooh. It depends. Like there's there's a lot of ones that are more adaptogenic and like help
Yeah.
your body deal with stress better, which in turn can support your mood. So things like lemon balm, chamomile. I've seen withania going around a lot, but it's not the best tasting tea. What else we got? All the mushroom teas that have been popular lately as well, but more along like
Yeah.
adaptogenic kind of pathway, not necessarily completely mood boosting. The ones that are actually showing scientific evidence for improving mood are probably more like your St. John's wort and your saffron and lemon balm again. But there are caveats there. So St. John's wort does have a lot of interactions, so I wouldn't just go and buy St. John's wort tea without talking to a herbalist or a naturopath first. But like, saffron's an easy alternative, but quite expensive. Lemon balms.
Yeah. But so much beautiful research around it, right?
So much. And like, because saffron doesn't have those interactions that St. John's wort has, there's a lot more newer research coming out. So I'm really excited to see more about that herb. But yeah, it's a little bit, it would be good. Like you only need like maybe 3 or 4 little stamen. In a cup of tea, and it turns it like bright yellow orangey color. It's really nice. I feel like,
have you done that? Yeah, with pure saffron.
Bit of an expensive.
Cool. How does it go in your teeth?
Not too bad. It does make your tongue look yellow as well.
Yeah. You could even throw it in a smoothie, right? Like, I guess it depends on the weather, or your porridge. You could
if you just put the stamens in the your cooked porridge and mix it around, it'll do its thing. For the smoothie, I don't know if it would be better off blending them or making it a tea first and then having the cold with liquid in your smoothie. I feel like that would be easy.
Yeah. Yeah, you could make like a saffron sort of infusion tea and then use that liquid in your smoothie. And then do like add turmeric in as an anti-inflammatory and like, woohoo, now we're talking.
What else we got?
Yeah, there's some goodies there, and like I love there's some of those you can use as teas. There's some sort of foodie ones. I know there's like so much too, like that's actually more like supplemental liquid herb that you would use. But again, as you just said, it varies so much. That's the beauty of it, based on what is required for a person, because it just all of them are going to kind of have different ways they're going to work, and it depends on that person's needs.
Which everyone responds differently depending on where it's coming from, on what neurotransmitters are doing what. Yeah,
absolutely. Awesome. And I think we had another question about, which I feel like we might have covered. You got one about supplements for low mood. We've kind of, I know we've been kind of broad, right? Like as far as that, but again, it's not so easy, I know. And you could, I feel like again, we talked about this last time with things like just quality fish oils for brain health, and pretty much the things that we're sort of mentioned to date. But when you start talking about supplements specifically, it depends on what's causing the low mood. I don't know whether you had any sort of anything extra you were thinking of that you would suggest there.
I mean, without going into somebody's case details and figuring out that reasoning, like I feel like magnesium's a general one that most people can test out on their own, but it's not always best support for them.
Good call. Yeah, so you could probably get like across the board, like we could probably say try a good magnesium, maybe like a magnesium B complex sort of powder. So then you're getting that sort of combination of some of those key what you're talking about before, cofactors. You're getting that nice combination. So maybe a nice magnesium B powder with some quality fish oils. Try that. Give that like a month. to 6 weeks, see how that goes. Make sure you're eating quality foods. If you're like what is macronutrients, go and listen to the podcast on that. Get that happening first and foremost. Definitely try a few of the things we've talked about as far as like Michaela's cool little herbal tips there and foodie things you can add in. Like absolutely hit all of those, and that might do the trick for you. And for some people, that's totally all that's needed, particularly if you're someone that's kind of got a lot on their plate. Like I'd even say for me, like the last couple of weeks, I'm out of my magnesium powder. I'm out of everything, and I've just literally hit up the girls to send me down my magnesium powder, and Michaela's shipping me down some herbs. I'm just like, I'm always on the go, and I can feel it. I can feel it at night, like I'm getting the cramps in the legs, and you can just feel like that mood isn't as balanced as it could be. And it's like, for someone like myself and a lot of people, it's just like, get that additional bit of support and great. But if that doesn't do the job, don't just live with it. Like a lot of the times there's these other factors that are going on. And that's where we're definitely saying, you know, reach out to JCN Clinic. You can DM us individually and see what other things can be done. We do have a Nurtured Mood package, which is running. Michaela's running that. So if that's something that's of interest for you, it's got a combination of consultations that are put together where it's specifically about looking at what's going on with your mood and diving deep into these individual factors that might be driving that. And then alongside that, she'll look at if you do need any additional functional testing or supplements. But that is the way we would say to come about this from an individual stance, as opposed to the general advice we've given today.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. Did we miss anything?
No, I think that kind of covers it. Like, we really just wanted to go over what low mood or mood issues, I guess, are, where they will be potentially coming from, and then like foods and herbs to support that. But yeah, I think that was everything. No.
Fabulous. Well, if anyone has any questions, just let us know. You can put the questions in the comments here, or you can DM us. If you've got questions about the package, you can DM Michaela directly, or you can hit up the clinic as well on the JCN page. Wherever you want, just pop in the questions, slide on into the DMs. But otherwise, everyone have a super day. And thanks heaps, Michaela.
See ya. Bye.
Okay, bye.